I'm Laura Blumenthal on the Berkshire Heroes podcast, and joining me today is Marjie Walker, CEO of the Link Visiting Scheme. Welcome, Marjie.
Hi Laura, thank you for having me.
Now, you began your career in nursing and started heading up the Link Visiting Scheme in 2007. Tell us a bit about the charity. What does it do? Who does it help? And what attracted you to your current role?
Right, well, the Link Visiting Scheme started in 1998 from Woodley Baptist Church. It was a very small church based scheme for about 10 years, just before I started in 2007. It stayed small, quite informal, where people, members of the congregation, could visit people who felt like they needed a bit more company. And then I had been nursing, as you said, and really enjoyed it, loved it. But then, as a family, we moved abroad with my three kids, and I came back to England after being abroad for 7 years. And my children were teenagers at the time, and getting back into nursing I thought was going to be a bit tricky, with either early shifts or late shifts. And this job came up, and I thought, oh, visiting older people, that sounds perfect. So I applied, got the job, very few hours, 7 hours a week, I think, just in the study at home. And it's kind of grown and developed from there. We're now supporting each year around about 800 older people every year who feel lonely and isolated, and we have a team, a, an active team of volunteers, sort of about 430 volunteers, where we primarily, the core of what we do is to go out into people's homes, and we match a volunteer with an older person and they become friends, and that's where we see the magic happen, where volunteers give their time, their attention to somebody who just hasn't seen people from days on end, and that makes such a difference. But also alongside that befriending, we run lots of activities and events and one-off events, and we do a very detailed Christmas program as well. We have a Christmas Day lunch. I know it's dreadful to talk about Christmas at this time of year, but we've already been planning it, and we take it very seriously. It's a lonely time of year for a lot of people, so it's something that we focus on.
And does Link go into care homes? Because my grandma, she's in a care home. My mum visits her most days, but my mum always says there's hardly any other visitors for the other people, and the carers, they're busy doing so many other things. They don't have
Mm.
time to just sit and chat. So is that something that Link focuses
Mm.
on?
I'm really well aware that there's a lot of loneliness in care homes, which you would hope wouldn't be the case, because you're in a situation surrounded by people. But I think there is that need to have somebody from the outside world coming in to visit. We don't currently visit people in care homes because we are struggling to keep up with the demand for people who are living alone in their own homes. But having said that, we are working very closely at the moment with Woking Borough Council, where every employee has been given a couple of charity days to take each year. And as part of that, we are working with some teams at the council to see if we can train up some of their staff to visit people in care homes. So we'll choose a couple of care homes, and link employees up with an older person to visit once a month, at first, and see where it goes from there. So we're aware that it's an issue, and we're trying to think of creative ways of tackling that.
That's amazing news. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
wondered, when you started at the charity, it was really quite tiny, and you've really grown it into a really established, medium-sized charity. And I was impressed to learn that Link won the Queen's Award, which is amazing.
Mm,
That's the highest
yes.
honor for a voluntary organization, and that stays with the charity for life. Was it always your vision to grow it, or was it just coming from growing demand, really?
Absolutely. Once you start getting out of the community and start talking to older people, you realise that the issue of loneliness and isolation is far reaching and affects so many people. So, anything that we can do to reach more older people and relieve those really difficult feelings of loneliness, is something that we are really determined to do. So we've set ourselves up in a way that we can grow and develop and reach more people. And it was just brilliant to win the Queen's Award. And that came out, I guess, from our work during the pandemic. So we had been growing steadily, throughout the years, reaching more older people, having more people volunteer for us. It was brilliant. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and we became quite a key partner with Wokingham Borough Council and other voluntary sector organisations in supporting people who were clinically vulnerable and shielding. We wanted to make sure that everybody had access to food, everybody had access to medication, but obviously most importantly for us is that people had social support. And if people were trapped at home on their own, we realised that that could be an incredibly dangerous and difficult time for them. So that's really where things started to change for us. So from that first lockdown, we then managed to recruit safely around 650 volunteers, and working closely with social services, we then made phone calls to 3,000 people who were shielding and needed that extra company. I think we made about 16,000 phone calls, and we were only a very small staff team at that point. There was 5 of us and I think 2 contractors. So it was an incredibly stressful, difficult time and heartbreaking in so many ways. But from there, we have grown, and our people heard about the Link Visiting Scheme. We got on the map, and from there we won the Queen's Award with special recognition for our work during COVID, and also the High Sheriff of Berkshire's Award as well for reaching the isolated. So we were really, really proud of that achievement. And from there, we've continued to grow and expand and reach more people that are struggling with loneliness and isolation.
And how serious is loneliness for people as an individual, affecting their health and everything else? And is it a growing issue? Is isolation more of a growing problem in our society locally?
Yeah, I mean, there's been quite a lot in the media around loneliness and isolation in recent times, which has been fantastic. There's a lot of stigma around loneliness. It's not something that's easy to talk about. If you experience loneliness, which we all do, we all experience loneliness from time to time. That's just a completely normal human response. But when you experience loneliness from a chronic perspective, when it's day in, day out, week in, week out, then that is a very serious and difficult issue to address. We're really pleased that there's been lots of media attention around loneliness, so it's easier now for people to talk about it and to put their hand up and say, actually, I could do with more company. I don't get out enough, I'm at home too much, which is really helpful, so we can reach more people. But loneliness is a painful and stressful condition. It causes a lot of stress in our body. So if you are chronically suffering with loneliness, you are more likely to suffer with depression and low mood. You're more likely to have cardiovascular problems just purely because of the stress it puts on your body. As an older person, it can affect your memory, and it's dangerous for your health. And I think that is now recognised through research. It's recognised with the council, it's recognised with health, that to prevent loneliness and to tackle loneliness means that we can keep people living well and independently at home for longer. So there is an awful lot of support out there for us to reach more older people, to make sure that we can, address those issues, get people back on their feet and help people to feel confident again, raise their self-esteem and help them to feel like they're an important part of our community. And something as simple as a weekly visit or going to a weekly activity, putting some routine into somebody's life, can have incredible impact on people's health and well-being. Yes, it's an important issue to address, one for us all to think about. Doesn't matter what age we are, it's something that we all need to work out. Have we got enough friendships in our lives? Is there something that we can do to improve our friendships? Is there things that you need to join? Is there places to go that you can just put yourself in the way of making better friends and having that support in your life? It's crucial to us all.
And is there a moment that you find particularly memorable during your time at Link, perhaps helping a specific individual or family, just something that really stays with you that makes you realize what an important charity Link is?
Oh, I've got so many incredible stories and memories of my time at the Link. I mean, I've been here now for nearly 17 years, which is scary when you think, I don't know where the time's gone, but it's there is something very special about walking into somebody's home where they're feeling anxious and really low in confidence. Most of the people that we support are living with quite a huge element of loss, whether that's a loss of their health or a loss of that loved one. They may have been married for 60 plus years. It could be the loss of their driving license or basically a loss of their purpose and routine. And to walk into somebody's life and say, well, actually, I'm finding you really interesting and I want to talk to you, and you've got stories to tell, and I'm enjoying spending some time with you, and the difference that makes to an older person. And then working out with them, the sort of volunteer that they might like having visit them, what their interests and hobbies are. A lot of older people will say, I've got nothing interesting to say. I don't go out very much anymore. And it doesn't take long for them to realise they've actually got loads to say. We all do, because we've all got stories to tell of our lives. And then finding a volunteer that's well matched, got similar interests and hobbies, making that introduction and seeing that friendship flourish, it is honestly, it's such a buzz. It's brilliant. And we always say, we've got another match made in heaven, where you introduce a volunteer with a Link friend, and it's like they can speak their own language because they're talking about things that they're interested in, which I may know nothing about. And the conversation takes off, and you can just sort of quietly slip out of the room and they won't even notice. And I've seen that happen so many times, hundreds and hundreds of times. And now, I've got a team of assessors that will go out and meet older people who are seeing that transformation happen themselves. It's brilliant. And then being able to introduce them to group activities and other things that we do that can add that sort of structure and routine to someone's life. When you're feeling lonely and you're lacking in confidence, your world very quickly becomes quite small. You don't want to go out. You don't want to make that first move, and you can wake up to a sort of vast and empty week and think, what am I going to do? How am I going to fill my time? And what I think one of the key things that we do is literally give an older person a bit of routine. So, we can take them to the pub on a Monday for lunch, or, they'll have a volunteer to visit them in the week. We'll introduce them to other group activities that are going on in their local area, not just things that we organise, but, things that we found out that are happening near them, and get them plugged in to things that are going on. And before you know it, life just greatly improves, and you see that they're taking care of themselves better, they're walking straighter, their mobility's better, and yeah, it's a real buzz. It's brilliant, and I feel immensely proud of all those connections that we've made.
I'm amazed when you say that older people say they've got nothing interesting to share, because
Yeah.
I find talking to older people so interesting. They've got so much wisdom, they've seen so many changes in this country, and they always have a gem. One person said to me the other day, I remember where I was when JFK got shot, and could give me so many details of the news and the feelings at that time. So that's incredible. But
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
glad that you can work with all sorts of people to get them to come out of their shell.
exactly. I think that's what loneliness does to you. It robs you of your confidence and your self-esteem. So and then once that improves, everything unlocks then. So it is wonderful to see that happen. Because as you say, older people have got a view on history. They've got experiences of life before phones, of life before computers. When
Believe
there
it
was a
or not, yes.
yeah, it's hard to imagine, I know. But yes, they can. I mean, life wasn't easy. I'm not saying life was easy for people when they were older people when they were younger. It was incredibly stressful and difficult in lots of ways, but they have a different perspective on things, which is wonderful to listen to and hear. I mean, I think it's, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about how brilliant it is to volunteer for us at the link. But it really is fantastic to volunteer for us at the link, because you walk into somebody's house and you put down your busyness for a minute and you give someone your attention, your focus. You're listening more than you're talking, and the power in that is really quite incredible. I mean, if I don't know if you've got good friends like that yourself. I mean, it's something that we will all think about. But if you've got a friend in your life that asks you a question and then really listens to what you're saying and takes it on board and finds that interesting, and then will take off from there to ask another pertinent question. How amazing that is to be that focused for a while, and the difference that it does to your self-esteem. I think we can all relate to that. It is a real gift that you can give someone.
Yes, I think one of the strongest things in my life that I have are very solid friendships with people I can talk to on the phone for 4 hours or so. So no, I certainly appreciate it in my life. And for people who don't have even one good friend, I
Mm,
can't imagine what that must be like. But let's talk about volunteering. Are you looking for
yes.
more volunteers? Who makes a good volunteer at the link and what support do you give them?
Yes, we are always looking for volunteers at the link. I think we're one of those organisations where you never have to worry that we will say, no, sorry, we're oversubscribed. We will always say, welcome, and thank you for getting in touch. So if you're thinking about dipping your toe into the world of volunteering, then we're a great place to start, I think. We, because a lot of what we do is through one-to-one friendships, you know, as soon as we get a new referral for with an older person needing to have some extra company, we need an extra volunteer. So our volunteer team grows all the time, and we're looking for volunteers who can basically give us a couple of hours a week or a fortnight, who are willing to go and visit somebody in their home. But there's lots of other roles as well. We do also have telephone buddies. We have people that help with transport. We have people that help with our activity program as well. So there's lots of different ways to get involved. But if you've got a couple of hours once a week or once a fortnight, and you're happy to listen, you're able to, just give that focus time and attention, then we would love to hear from anybody that might be interested. We only cover Woking and Borough, but volunteers obviously can come from outside of the borough if they're willing to travel. It's easier to link someone up in the daytime, but we do also take volunteers who can visit in the evenings. Weekends are fine as well. A lot of older people, one day is very similar to another day, so it doesn't really matter what day of the week. We take everybody that comes to us on an individual, personalised basis, so we get to know everybody. So a volunteer might come to us and we'll find out a little bit about them, what they're interested in, what they like doing, what they don't like doing, what experiences they've had in their lives that might, lend them to be matched with somebody, whether they've got experience of talking to people who are living with dementia, perhaps, or some other long-term health condition. We will find out a bit about the volunteer, what they would like, and then we think carefully about how we match them to an older person. We obviously do a DBS check, and we do some induction training. We do some support around having a conversation with somebody living with dementia, if that's what they're interested in. We do some safeguarding training, and then pretty much you're ready to go. We take a couple of references, and we try and make the process of getting on board really pretty quick and easy. And then we support people ongoing just to make sure that they're enjoying their role. And if they're not enjoying it, then we will help them to either find somebody else to visit or, we'll put some extra support in place so that they can continue. But yeah, I think it's a brilliant thing to volunteer for. I recommend it. If you've got some free time, Laura, then please let us know.
Always
and
on the recruitment. I love it, Marjie.
always on a recruitment drive. Yes, it's a great place to volunteer at a time that suits you.
I wanted to ask you, what is Link focusing on right now, and how can people find you online if they do want to volunteer?
What we're focusing on always is reaching older people and volunteers from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, from diverse communities. So if you're part of a community where you think that we can come and do a presentation or tell people about the link, then please let us know, because it's a chance for us to promote our services, what we do, how we can support people, and how you can volunteer. So that's always a focus. You can find us online. Our website is linkvisiting.org, and all the information on how to volunteer or how to refer someone to us is there. Hopefully it's pretty easy to navigate and find out everything you need to know. You can also call our office, of course. We're based in Wokingham.
And final question, Marjie. If you were Prime Minister, what would you change about the UK and why?
Good question. Good question. I think I would primarily start with extra funding for adult social care. We need social workers to be able to provide that support to older people to help them to live independently at home for longer. So that would be my first task. I think that our social services are so stretched. Obviously, huge investment into the voluntary sector, because we can, with little money, do so much out in the community. We've got an army of volunteers out there who are face to face with older people, and we can stop people from escalating, to have emergency needs. We can get there quickly and put things in place. So always have a focus on the voluntary sector and the incredible things that we can do. But also, I think another key thing, if I was Prime Minister, is I would invest in community transport. It's so hard for older people to get from A to B. Can't use public buses very easily, can't wait around for buses, can't walk to a bus stop, can't use taxis because it's very expensive. And community transport is hugely oversubscribed and difficult to get onto. So that's where I would put some investment as well, just to help older people to get out of the house and socialising, connecting with other people. It's hugely important and something that I would focus on.
And I know that there are charities such as Early Bus, Ready Bus, Keep Mobile
Yeah,
that do so
yeah,
much to try to help with that
yeah,
transport element as well, because we do live in an area which is very car heavy. And if you can't
yes,
drive, then you are pretty isolated a lot of the time. I wondered if you had a view on, a few years ago, there was a loneliness minister in the
yeah,
government. And I
yeah.
wondered if you thought that made an impact, or you didn't hear much about it.
No, I definitely think it does, because it puts loneliness on the agenda. There's somebody to kind of remind the government about what a serious issue loneliness is, and I am disappointed that we don't have a loneliness minister at the moment. I think that there was a huge amount of focus around raising the issues of loneliness in the previous government. That's not been picked up in this current government. So I I worry about where that's going to go. We want loneliness and the issues around loneliness to stay as a priority, as a public health priority. We need to watch what happens next with this government. I don't think that they are making friends with older people currently, with the winter fuel cuts, etc. They kind of I don't think older people are feeling terribly supported by this government. So, yeah, I would love to see that they're taking a stand against such an important issue as loneliness and isolation.
Thank you so much, Marjie Walker, for joining me on the Berkshire Heroes podcast. It's been lovely to speak with you.
You're welcome. Nice to see you. Thank you very much.